Welcome to the ACE Project, brought to you by the Literacy.io team at Texas A&M University. I'm your host, Ashley Stack, also known as Captain Comprehension. We are so excited you'll be joining us on this reading journey and hope you and your child enjoy this time together. So get comfy, rev up your brains, and get ready to think, because we are ready to help you become a comprehension detective.
Hi, super readers. My name is Captain Comprehension, and I am here to guide you as you become a comprehension detective. Welcome to week 10 of our podcast. This week, we're reading activist and labor organizer Cesar Chavez. Have you ever thought about how hard it might be to work on a farm? Did you know that farm workers previously had no labor rights? Would you like to know how they solved this big problem and who helped them? Today, we're going to read activist and union organizer Cesar Chavez. Before we begin reading, let's go over some important vocabulary that will help us better understand the story. Our first term is agricultural. Agricultural means something that's related to growing crops or raising farm animals. A synonym for this might be farm, and an antonym would be urban or industrial. Our second word is one we've heard before. It's activist. I wanted to remind you, an activist is a person who works to bring change. A synonym or word that means the same might be advocate or champion, and there aren't really any antonyms or opposites for this one. Our next word is union. A union is a group of workers who form together to protect their rights. A synonym or word that means the same would be coalition or league. An antonym or opposite might be individual. Our next term is demonstration. A demonstration is a public gathering to show support for a cause. A synonym or word that means the same could be march, strike, or protest. And there aren't really any antonyms to this. Our next word is labor. Labor means a group of workers who do manual work. A synonym or word that means the same might be workforce. And again, we don't really have any antonyms for this one. Okay, super readers, it's time to pause your videos and text POD 10 to 866-903-2545. This will help you kick off the first questions. Here we go. The word union means A, joining things together, B, a group of states run by one government, C, an individual, or D, workers who fight for their rights. Our second question, which word is a synonym for demonstration? A, hiding, B, protest, C, concealment, D, ignoring. Okay, super readers, it's time for us to read the story. Activist and labor organizer Cesar Chavez. Life as a migrant worker. A first-generation American, Cesar Chavez was born on March 31st, 1927, outside Yuma, Arizona. At age 11, his family lost their farm during the Great Depression and became migrant farm workers. Chavez traveled throughout California, laboring in the fields, where he was exposed to the hardships and injustices of farm worker life. Chavez finished his formal education after the 8th grade and worked the fields full-time to help support his family. Chavez joined the U.S. Navy in 1946 and served in the Pacific. He returned from the service in 1948 and married Helen Fabella, whom he met while working in the fields and vineyards in California. Together, they settled in the East San Jose neighborhood of Sal Si Puedes, get out if you can, and had 8 children, later enjoying 31 grandchildren. Establishing the UFW. Chavez's community organizing career began in 1952 at the Community Service Organization, or CSO, the most prominent Latino civil rights group of its time. Chavez spent 10 years with CSO, coordinating voter registration and get-out-the-vote drives and leading campaigns against racial and economic discrimination. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, he served as CSO's staff director. Yet Chavez's dream was to organize a union that would protect and serve the farm workers whose poverty and powerlessness he had experienced. He also realized that the only thing holding him back from trying to organize farm workers was his financial security. In 1962, at the age of 35, he had his first steady job. But he also understood the cycle of poverty that had trapped farm workers for generations. So in 1962, Chavez resigned from CSO, leaving his first decent paying job he had ever had. With $1,200 in life savings, he founded the National Farm Workers Association with 10 members: himself, his wife Helen, and their 8 young children. The group later became the United Farm Workers of America, or UFW. The Chavez family moved to Delano, California, a dusty little farm town in California's Central Valley. Chavez traveled to other farm towns trying to recruit workers for his infant union. It was a tough sell at first, and he would often talk to 100 workers before finding 1 or 2 who weren't afraid to join. Nonviolent protests on behalf of farm workers. When Chavez began building the farm worker movement 50 years ago, he simply wanted to build a strong union. He soon realized it would require a larger movement to overcome the burdens of poverty, discrimination, and powerlessness. Chavez began a burial program, the first credit union for farm workers, health clinics, daycares, and job training programs. With the help of the movement, he also built affordable housing. From Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Chavez adopted historic methods and tactics that were new to organized labor. He demanded farm workers stick to a pledge of nonviolence. This different vision of organizing people sparked opposition from within the UFW. Some strikers and staff left the union during Chavez's 25-day fast for nonviolence, but he prevailed. Senator Robert Kennedy came to Delano as the fast ended and called Chavez one of the heroic figures of our time. Chavez used nonviolence to win disputes with management. Millions of people across North America rallied to the farm workers' cause, boycotting grapes and other products. By refusing to buy grapes, they forced growers to bargain union contracts and agree to California's pioneering farm labor law in 1975. UFW's most important accomplishments. Under Chavez, the UFW achieved huge gains for farm workers, establishing it as the first successful farm workers union in American history. The group helped win the first union contracts requiring rest periods, toilets in the fields, and clean drinking water. Other contracts banned harassment of women workers and prohibited pesticide spraying while workers were in the fields. The UFW also won the first comprehensive union medical benefits for farm workers and their families. Because of Chavez and millions of Americans who supported farm workers by boycotting grapes and other products, California passed the historic Agricultural Labor Relations Act of 1975. It was the nation's first and only law guaranteeing farm workers the right to organize. Death and legacy. Chavez died in his sleep on April 23, 1993, in the small farm worker town of San Luis, Arizona. More than 50,000 people attended his funeral. Chavez's motto, "Si se puede," yes, it can be done, coined during his 1972 fast in Arizona, embodies the uncommon legacy he left for people around the world. His birthday, March 31st, is an official holiday in 10 states. In 1994, President Bill Clinton posthumously awarded Chavez the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor, at the White House. Chavez liked to say that his job as an organizer was helping ordinary people do extraordinary things. He gave people the faith to believe in themselves, even if they were poor and unable to receive the best education. Chavez succeeded where many others failed for 100 years to organize farm workers. Okay, comprehension detectives, it's time for us to think about the text structure of Cesar Chavez. So here are some of the things I heard. It was unjust. The workers were having difficulties. But Chavez was able to win for them. He achieved. What do you think the text structure might be? Go ahead and use your text structure bookmark. When you're ready, pause your video and go back to the texting survey to answer the question. What is the text structure of the passage? A. Comparison. B. Cause and effect. C. Problem and solution. D. Cause, problem, and solution. Welcome back, detectives. The text structure is cause, problem, and solution. Now it's time to use our main idea sentence stems to write the main idea of this passage. The main idea sentence stems for the whole selection are: the cause is, the problem is, the solution is. Pause your video and go back to the texting survey to answer the question using the sentence stems. Hi there, detectives. Here's what I wrote for my main idea. The cause is that there were no laws to protect the workers or allow them to organize. The problem was that Cesar saw that most farm workers lived in poverty or had poor working conditions. The solution was that Cesar united and organized the workers to fight peacefully for their rights. How does yours compare? Okay, detectives, it's time for us to answer a multiple choice main idea question. Here we go. What is the best main idea for the selection? A. The farm workers had no legal way to protect themselves from poor working conditions and lived in poverty. Cesar fought by uniting and organizing the workers to protest peacefully so that the people would support them and the government would make new laws to protect them. B. Cesar Chavez helped many people sign up to vote and worked at a community service position to help Latinos. But his greatest desire was to help the farm workers, so he gave up that job and began to support the farm workers. C. Cesar Chavez is considered a hero of the United States. He received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from President Clinton posthumously. This medal is the nation's highest civilian honor. In some states of the United States, the birth of Cesar Chavez is celebrated. Remember, detectives, we're looking for the answer that contains the cause, the problem, and the solution. Pause your video and go back to the texting survey to answer this question. Great work, detectives. Now let's extend our main idea to write the summary of this passage. Remember, our main idea is the cause is that there were no laws to protect the workers or to allow them to organize. The problem was that Cesar saw that most farm workers lived in poverty and had poor working conditions. The solution was that Cesar united and organized the workers to fight peacefully for their rights. Think about some details that might go with each part of the main idea. When you're ready, pause your video and discuss it with your adult partner to think about what the summary might be. Welcome back. Here's what I wrote for my summary. How does yours compare? The cause is that there were no laws to protect the workers or allow them to organize. The problem was that Cesar saw from his childhood that most farm workers lived in poverty and had poor working conditions. The solution was that Cesar united and organized the workers to fight peacefully for their rights through demonstrations and strikes, so people would support them and the government would make laws to protect them. You're doing great, detectives. It's time for us to answer a multiple choice summary question. Remember, your summary must contain the cause, the problem, and the solution, plus a few details added. What is the best summary for the selection? A. Cesar was born in 1927. During the Great Depression, his family lost their farm, which caused them to become migrant farm workers. The family went from farm to farm asking for work. As an adult, Cesar joined the U.S. military and served for 2 years. Afterwards, he married and had 8 children. He had a passion for helping people. B. Farm workers were not protected by law or allowed to organize. Cesar realized from growing up that laborers lived in poverty and had bad working conditions. Because of this, Cesar united and organized the workers to strike peacefully, gaining support from people and convincing the government to pass laws to protect them. C. Cesar helped many people sign up to vote and worked at a community service position to help Latinos. He started daycares, health centers, and job training centers. But his greatest desire was to help the workers, so he gave up that job and began to support the farm workers. He moved to the Central Valley of California. Pause your video, go back to your texting survey, and answer the multiple choice summary question. You're doing such great work, detectives. Now it's time for us to infer. Remember, when we infer, we use the information we read and some information we already have in our brains to draw a conclusion. Are you ready? What might not have happened to Cesar if his family had not lost their farm during the Great Depression? Why did Cesar encourage the farm workers to protest peacefully? Pause and think about these questions. Discuss them with your adult partner. What might not have happened to Cesar if his family had not lost their farm during the Great Depression? A. Cesar might not have seen how bad the working conditions were. B. Cesar might not have joined the army. C. Cesar would not have gotten married. D. Cesar would not have had his kids. Pause your video and answer this question. Why did Cesar encourage the farm workers to protest peacefully? A. He modeled his protests after Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. B. He did not want people to get hurt while demonstrating. C. He knew nonviolence was a good way to get others to support their cause. D. All of the above. Pause your video and answer this final question. Thank you so much for joining us this week, Comprehension Detectives. I hope you learned something new from Cesar Chavez this week. I cannot wait to join you again next week. Remember, we can all be super readers. This is Captain Comprehension, signing off.